we have the absolute pleasure to invite the team who have been behind making of The Walking Dead to join us. So we've got from IUGO, Dan Murray from Skybound, and Jory Pisal from Scopely. If you guys could come up and join us. So obviously, you can't go anywhere at the moment without being aware of The Walking Dead, can you? Let's face it. It's been an incredible kind of phenomenon from the early days of the comics, obviously, to the TV show. And what we're going to try and do is really try and understand what's happened in the game. And you guys have done some amazing things with the game. So, I mean, let's start off just, if I can just ask each of you to introduce yourselves and kind of what you guys do and the teams that you work with and what you've contributed to the game. So, Jory, do you want to start?
Great, yeah. My name is Jory Pearsall, SVP of Product at Scopely. I basically look after the product management group at Scopely and served as the general manager for The Walking Dead Road to Survival, basically from day zero all the way through launch. Just a little bit about Scopely. We're a mobile entertainment publisher. We've had 6 consecutive #1 free apps on the App Store. Most recently was Walking Dead Road to Survival. And we have 2 games right now kind of consistently sitting in the top 50 grossing. And I think Road to Survival right now is sitting around 11 on Google Play, so doing pretty well for us. Let's see, what else about Scopely? We're running at about a $200 million annual run rate. We're ranked by Deloitte as the 2nd fastest growing tech company in North America. So it's been an exciting couple of years.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Dan Murray. I run Skybound Interactive. Skybound is a media company that places creators at the center. It was founded by Robert Kirkman, who's the creator of The Walking Dead. And the philosophy of our company is to extend sort of the same opportunity that happened for Robert by retaining the rights to The Walking Dead to other creators. So we partner up with a lot of different creators and all kinds of different media. Obviously, my focus is on the game side, and most people recognize us from the Telltale games that we've done around The Walking Dead. This is sort of the second foray of The Walking Dead in the game space, other than a Walking Dead mobile game that we did a couple of years ago. But this is the first free-to-play game in this space. We're doing a lot of different stuff when it comes to all kinds of different platforms, but really mobile is sort of a big area of focus for our company as we sort of always look to try to engage our fan base directly.
Hi, I'm YK Han. So I'm the EVP at IUGO. I help out with production, products, and technology at the studio. IUGO has been around for 13 years. I've been at the studio for 11. We started out making feature phone games, flip phones, Brew OS, J20.
Oh, I remember those.
yeah, 64K games, small ones.
Yeah, that big. We had a 24K jar limit on some of the earliest of the phones.
Dot Matrix.
Wow.
Yeah, so we came out from that, and then we did smartphone games, and obviously right around 2010, 2009, we switched over to free-to-play, as the market did, and then we have been building different products since then. I think our first notable success was Little Pirates.
Oh yeah.
So I believe that was 2009 Pocket Gamer Premium Game of the Year. So that was it was a lucky hit. It was one of our first free-to-play games. We did 5 games after that didn't succeed, and then until then we hit Knights and Dragons with Bree, so that was a good success. And then after that we did 3 more that wasn't really considered commercially successful, and then we did Walking Dead. So based on that, maybe we just need 1 more failures, then we'll hit the next one.
But you've done, like I said, there's a lot of material in there. There's a lot. We talked about the lean startup earlier with the Hyper guys, and this idea of failure. It's obviously, I think, thoroughly misunderstood, particularly in the UK. But I think it's an incredibly important part. My whole career could be arguably defined as, colossal failures in massive ways. I did some of the first online gaming services. I was one of the first mobile operator guys. PlayStation Home. Let's face it, it's one of the sort of biggest success failure things going, and obviously no longer with us. But the amount I learned from those near misses was incredible, much more than if I'd actually been managing one of the services that continued ever forward. I mean, so do you think, how much do you think you brought from those early experiments into The Walking Dead?
I think in general, as a studio, we grow with it. I think we celebrate failures in a sense. I think it helps us in many ways. Technology is one big thing whereby with every product we put out there, we see what a deficiency, we improve it. You know, failures actually exposes a lot of the weaknesses in your platform, in the tech that you are deploying, how you're running live ops and stuff like that. The other big component is the team, right? The team experience with failures, experience with successes that helped them understand and improve the processes and even like direct it in a more efficient manner for the next one. So you increase your chances of success. It's never a sure thing, but I think we are all in the business of making sure that we have the highest probability of success.
And I think that idea of technology and the processes, I mean, I think this is, again, another area less understood by people who haven't been involved in long-term services, as often, you know, deep. So, I mean, how did the process get started for the game? You know, where did the idea come from to make a Walking Dead game? Was it from yourselves? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably touch on the beginning of that because I joined about 2.5 years ago. You know, Robert and his business partner David Alpert had an appetite to do more in the game space. I think obviously the success of the Telltale Walking Dead game helped fuel that, and you know, and so when they brought me in, you know, the initial sort of mandate was to go out and just sort of not, you know, sort of reach out to, you know, developers and try to, you know, figure out how we could, you know, connect to the development process and figure out ways to do that in an authentic and efficient manner. But when we started looking at mobile, obviously. It's much different, especially in the free-to-play market. It's a much different beast than per se making a premium game. So, you know, my advice to them is like, look, we're gonna have to find some firepower, you know, and especially with this kind of brand, we're gonna let's go seek out a publisher that's really aggressive and is looking at sort of, you know, and to grow with us. And so for us, it's always, you know, I think, you know, failure is something that we always try to embrace, because if you're not trying to do something different or innovate, and those come in all different ways, then you're not taking a chance. So the end result, you're probably not going to make something that for us, our fans are probably going to recognize as something that's not unique. You know, and especially with The Walking Dead, there's so many different products now out around The Walking Dead.
Exactly, yeah.
It's really important for us to figure out how to take a risk and find the partners to do so.
It's kind of a really important thing, I think, that you've just highlighted, which is that you didn't just go out there thinking, oh, we'll make a game. Yeah. You actually sat back and think, hang on a minute, if we're going to make a game, we need people who've got the experience and technology to do it, but also a publishing process that's got the, pardon the pun, scope to be able to take it to the level that it should be. I mean, is that kind of where you guys came into that process?
Yeah, I mean, for me, speaking from the Scopely side, it was just kind of a dream opportunity in many ways. You know, I have a background making RPGs for a while now, and had the pleasure of working with IUGO in past jobs. And so when we started talking, it was just like, this is the perfect, you know, it's the perfect world to build a game within, right? I mean, when you look for that right context, right? It's like, how deep and immersive a world do you have? You know, do you have kind of compelling characters, story, all these things that you can kind of build on top of? So it just made perfect sense to do a game.
Yeah, I mean, it just became a conversation. You know, it was Henry, you know, Lowenfels and I that sort of, you know, had met each other at events like this, you know, and so we basically just got together and started talking, you know, and they had approached me initially about, hey, you know, we're looking to sort of transition into more of a mid-core type of game, and, you know, we're looking at sort of IPs that can marry to that, and obviously The Walking Dead offers a lot to that, because it's not just about zombies and about the end of the world, it's about the beginning of the world, and there's a tribal war aspect to it, which really marries well to the PvP elements that you can introduce into a game, a free-to-play game. So, you know, that's where it started, literally just Henry and I started chatting at events like this, and then it kind of evolved where they introduced IUGO, and it wasn't a natural, like looking at Knights and Dragons, that's what we really took a close look at. But, and you wouldn't naturally just look and go, that's the perfect fit. But when we got into it, and we actually knew some of the people that worked at Skybound, myself and one of our managing partners, we knew of IUGO from our past days being on the development side, so that we knew that they had the chops to really execute. But when we saw in Knights and Dragons were the bones of something that could really apply to this style of game.
Because I think it's really fascinating that, if you think about it, you wouldn't have automatically gone for a build battler game with a brand like Walking Dead, given the history of the Telltale narrative arc, because they historically haven't been very strong in terms of the overarching narrative, and yet you've really tried to take that on. So how did you make the decision to do the build a battler and then move on to make something that would then keep true to the narrative?
That was a good. Go ahead.
I think there's a lot of discussion between the three partners. I think one thing that worked really well is that we are always open conversation with each other on this kind of stuff. So with the narrative, it's a couple of things. It's about making sure that the art looks right to the fans. The story is true to the canon. We can pick side stories and stuff like that I want to do, but we can't change the canon. So that's one big thing. And I think picking out the writers, I think with Skybound's help is really, really crucial. I think the writing is such a delicate thing that if you had it a little bit off, the fans can sense that. So that's one of the stuff that we did well with this product.
Yeah, it was a big challenge, to be perfectly frank. We actually there was a good 6-month process there where we had a lot
trying to sugarcoat it.
No, it was hard, and we had a lot of arguments back and forth about sort of the importance of narrative in a free-to-play game and how to do that authentically, and we went down a couple different paths and had to come back. And what we ended up, figuring out is for Robert, specifically, he's writing a comic book. The Walking Dead is still a living, breathing IP, and there's a TV show that that takes some bits of the comic book, but yet messes up with other parts. So he kind of likes to mix and match and treat each medium very specifically unique to that medium. But once we got too far into, if we went directly into canon, we knew we were going to just run out of runway. We were the content would be gone in a matter of months because people consume content so quickly on this type of game. So what we figured out is we brought in a guy named Jay Bonansinga, who wrote a lot of The Governor. Actually wrote the Governor novels with Robert. So there's a lot of backstory that hadn't been put out in either a comic or the TV show. And so we really leaned in on the town of Woodbury as a way to sort of introduce new characters and to create a mission structure that would allow us to sort of do what we did with Telltale, in a sense, create sort of another parallel sort of set of characters that were sort of going alongside what was happening in the comic book. But at the same time, that would afford us the ability to then create limited time events that we could pull directly from the material itself.
Because the whole Woodbury time period is such a pivotal part of the narrative of the whole story.
Yeah, we could intersect, essentially. So what would happen is we could kind of go back and forth, but we could still kind of keep the main thread of the mission, the main mission structure over here, while we then just went, okay, now we're just going to go back and forth in time and tell these side stories. And so it really allowed us that ability to constantly, to have enough content.
But you kind of hinted at me. It seems to me there's a whole bunch of compromise that has to happen to make this stuff work. I mean, gameplay in particular, I'm thinking about, because in order to support the initial narrative, there's going to be a certain type of gameplay that's going to work. But over time, do you have to adapt that? Do you have to sort of think about the way that you retain an audience in a different way? I mean, how does it affect? How does keeping the narrative affect the way that you build the game?
I think the product is evolving. It's evolving along with the comic and the show, and we try to take advantage of a lot of the things that's happening in the media relating to the IP. If you play the game at the beginning, it's very insular. It's very PvEs. You have small groups, PvP, that kind of stuff. We're slowly building that up into a different form of gameplay. There's more evolution along that lines, whereby there's a bigger world out there. It's not just you're not alone, now, and then you get into gameplay whereby it pits you against massive groups of other players. I think that's how we evolved that gameplay along that thread.
Yeah, we knew we could get there because there's the whole arc where the TV show is about to, literally in season 7 that's coming up, we're just about to get to this, the arc in the comic, which is called All Out War.
Yeah.
So we haven't even gotten to it in the TV show. So, but the comic, it's something for fans of the comic know that that's out there. So we had a target to get to as far as like alliances and figuring out PvP and really looking at how to bring people together so that they could create their own factions and fight each other. And if we got to that, if we could get enough of an audience and sustain that, once we got to that point, we knew that we were going to be in a good place.
So does this introduce some sort of particular challenges as a publisher, in terms of the marketing and the kind of ongoing support and the kind of the customer management? How does this affect you guys in Scopely?
So for us, we're trying to create a product that's going to be able to stick around for a long, long time. And as Stan and YK alluded to, where we're evolving the game is this kind of deep sense of community, right? Kind of getting factions to participate with each other, against each other in all-out war, kind of build the sense that there's a larger world out there, right? And so I think as a publisher, if we can kind of funnel people into this world where you immediately jump into the game, you see it's authentic, you see it's, this is a Walking Dead experience, right? This is the real Walking Dead world. But then we evolve it over time so that there's a reason to stick around and kind of really engage with this community as you're playing the game. That sets us up very well for success.
And obviously we alluded to the TV show, and I kind of feel like I have to ask, because obviously I first encountered it as a comic, but there's lots of people who first encounter it as the TV show. Things like Rick having a hand or not, those kind of questions. How do you deal with those kind of shocks to the system where there are those differences? Or do you not need to? Do you find that people just get used to it?
Yeah, from our side, they're obviously it's set in the same world, right? So the core kind of world that you're living in with The Walking Dead is the same across all these different properties. Kirkman's very involved in all of them. But yeah, we're authentic to the comic storyline, and it served us very, very well. It's nice being able to see into the future actually and know where things are headed a little bit ahead of the TV series, for example. And I think it's pretty clear that fans are excited about it, even if they haven't been exposed to the comic book before. We're over 20 million downloads already in less than a year live.
And it seems to me it's quite accessible. So if you were to sort of say, it's a zombie game, historically you'd have said, actually, that's quite a niche game. But it feels to me that something about the nature of the brand and the way it is so obvious across so many different properties, that definitely seems to work in your favour. Do you see more mass market audiences playing, or would you say that it is more gamer?
Yeah, I absolutely think it's available. It's accessible for a mass market audience. For a lot of players, this is their first experience to an RPG, and we're intentionally trying to do something very different than you would get in a normal RPG. It's gritty, it's mature. There's blood, there's violence. It's the real Walking Dead world. So I think the mechanics work across a large spectrum of players as long as we can kind of get them in the door and give them an authentic experience.
I think authenticity is really important. And I suppose really we're just running out of time, so I just want to ask the last one, which is really about the crossover between Telltale and this game. I think that's been an amazing kind of thing. How did that come about, and was that easy to do, or did it cause
it was pretty easy. For Skybound, it's really important that we don't be perceived as just a license house. That we're not just going out and doing straight licensing deals. We have a team of people that come from game development on our side, and so we're speaking sort of the same language as, hopefully, as IUGO and Telltale. And so when I first came aboard, Telltale was a little skeptical, like, who's the new guy? Don't come in here and ruin the party. But I basically just said, look, it's going to be, hopefully, in spirit, we want to do just the opposite, and we want to be able to sort of take our community and allow that community to experience lots of different things within our family underneath the Skybound roof. So it wasn't that hard. It was just more of a conversation. Once they saw the game, once Telltale sort of saw how players interacting, it was literally just get on the phone, let's figure out how to do something cool, let's offer some characters, and we did it over the holiday, and it was a huge success. I can't think think of many other examples of what is really just traditionally a console PC experience, although there's a mobile, it's on mobile as well. But really, it's a console game on premium, co-mingling with a free-to-play game under just one license.
Because those characters have incredible emotional charge. I mean, Clem in particular. There's, I had to get the rest of The Walking Dead because of Clem, that relationship that that they had together in that first thing. I needed to know what happened to her, and so seeing her coming across is a really interesting kind of idea.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna keep doing it.
Oh
yeah,
okay, good.
Yeah, we think it's great. The fans loved it, and it's not like we're recreating too much narratively. We are able to sort of allows us to sort of lean in a lot of these limited time events where we can just really sort of give what players want the ability to play Clem, play Kenny, really play the characters and put them on their team and let them coexist, and that's fun. So why not?
Perfect way to end it. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks a lot.